Hello, and welcome to Global Rhythms with your hosts, myself, Azara, and Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hello, everyone in the world listening. I so appreciate you all out there. I want you to know that all of the comments that come back to us from faraway places in Europe, from South Africa, from Latin America, from everywhere else are very important to Rebecca and myself because it gives us encouragement. It tells us that we're on the right track, and this is what you want to hear. And of course, as always, I want to say that please let us know what you want to hear, and we'd be very happy to answer your questions. And speaking of questions, Rebecca, I had a question from a listener, a very interesting question that asked me, where does music come from? Oh. Where does music come from?
Okay.
Now, on first hearing that question, my immediate thought, well, of course, music comes from the same place all the other creative arts come from, the imagination, right, Rebecca?
That's what I would have thought, yep.
Yeah. But then I thought a little bit further about that question, and I thought, now, hang on a second, Azara. Maybe the history of music is really the history of humanity itself. Because as I thought back, I'm thinking, well, who first or who was it that discovered music? Was early man? Mm-hmm. Some researchers say that mankind started on this planet maybe 35,000 years ago. Well, okay, so what happened back then? Did early man start clapping their hands together to make sounds? Did they pick up rocks to make sounds? Were they listening to nature to make sounds? How did that all happen? What do you think, Rebecca?
I think it's probably along the lines of what you just stated, that I think the idea of music has always been around, and when humans and other animals became more intelligent and able to repeat sounds that they heard naturally and create rhythms with it, I think that's kind of where it all started, and then obviously blossomed into the wonderful world of music we have now.
So you think that music started on this planet with the sounds of this planet?
That's a great question. I mean, when you put it like that, no. I think.
Okay, so if your answer is no, then where did it come from?
Well, the space, I guess, universe.
Okay.
Everything we're made up of.
All right, so let's talk about that a little bit, Rebecca, because that's a very interesting issue for me personally. As many people out there know, Global Peace Media is also involved in the broadcasting of a very popular show that deals with space, ancient civilization, the nature of mankind, the origins of mankind. Are we a terrestrial civilization? Are we a spacefaring civilization? Et cetera, et cetera. So I've had plenty of time to consider the questions of who we are as human beings on the planet, where did we come from? And the question of today is, where does music come from along those lines? And some researchers say, Rebecca, that the universe is full of sounds, that the universe is actually number in motion. And obviously humans cannot see numbers floating around in space.
Yeah.
But that number then is stepped down in the form of sounds that can be heard. And so you have ancient religions stating that, quote unquote, as in the Bible, in the beginning was the word, correct? We all remember that line.
Yes.
Well, clearly the word implies a sound. When you say a word, you're uttering some kind of sound that other people are hearing. That's from the religious standpoint already. They're talking about sound. From the scientific point of view, they say that the entire universe started with what? The Big Bang theory. Yep. Again, the word bang, indicates a sound, correct?
Yep.
So
correct.
Either way, whether you're going to believe in science or you're going to believe in some kind of religion, you're dealing with the idea that the universe is full of sounds, and that sound can be stepped down so that humans can hear it in some form or another. And then, as a scientist say, first there's sound, and then sound is stepped down as light. Light comes down as matter onto the planet. So let's follow that trail, Rebecca, a little bit.
Okay.
If we're going to say that sound starts in whatever region, of the universe, and then it is stepped down into light that we can see, like sunlight, and then that light is stepped down on planet Earth as matter. In other words, 3D matter, like your desk, a tree, humans, whatever. Then we have to postulate and say that, okay, maybe music did not start on Earth at all. Maybe it's coming from outer space. And I'm going to, at the end of this program, Rebecca, play a track of music that comes from a really far away place. And when I say far away, I mean very, very far away. So you want to stay tuned for that. That'll be very interesting for any of you that have not heard that music that is coming clearly from the center of our galaxy. So that's right. The center of our galaxy has a sound, and everything in the universe, every planet, believe it or not, Rebecca, has its own sound. The Earth has a sound. Jupiter has a sound. Mars has a sound, et cetera, et cetera. And in future shows, I'm actually going to play those space sounds. Sort of like a galactic symphony, if you will. That'll be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. Okay, so have we answered that a little bit, where music comes from, you think, Rebecca?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say that on the Earth plane here, where we are in a 3D world, most musicians would say what? That their music comes from where, Rebecca? Where do you think they would say it comes from?
Well, probably specific musicians would either say their instruments, if they want to be really specific, or, their imagination, their heart, soul, whatever. Anything like that.
I've had this conversation with a couple of musician friends of mine since that question was asked of me, where does music come from? And it was a very lively discussion. I mean, some of the musicians thought, well, it's clearly from Earth. I listen to nature. I listen to the sound of water, waterfalls, the ocean. I listen to the animals, whatever. I'm picking up various sounds all around me from nature. Okay, so that's one possibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're picking up all of these sounds from nature, and somehow that is inspiring you to then formulate those sounds into some kind of rhythmic pattern that the rest of us can understand, not just as, well, a tree falling in the forest or the waves lapping, on the shores from a big ocean, or rain falling, whatever, correct? Yeah. So it's an interesting kind of issue to speculate on, because there's opinions all over the place, whether music in its origins is terrestrial or dimensional, extraterrestrial, whatever word you want to use. Now, I know that some very famous musicians in the past have declared, in fact, that their music, their inspiration came from their so-called communication with beings from other places.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you really study the background of even super popular pop stars, such as Elvis Presley, who had a belief in all of this, UFOs, et cetera, that we are not alone in the universe. And I think all one has to do at nighttime is look up in the sky and see those millions and trillions of stars out there, and to think that we on planet Earth are the only life forms in this gigantic universe that never seems to have an end is the height of ego, because what an enormous waste of space out there, right?
Yeah,
If
that's a
we're
lot.
the only life forms, what would be the point?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I know for a fact, as I said, Global Peace Media is involved in broadcasting a very popular show that deals with all things space, with a host that is a super professional in that area, very learned, who was the commentator on all the space flights to the moon and to Mars, and who has a lot of knowledge of what exactly is on those planets that we may not be told about. But that's a topic maybe for another day. What I'm saying is that we have now photographic proof of various structures on other planets that are not quote unquote natural structures of those planets, but they are in the forms of architecture that clearly had to have an intelligent life form in order to build that architecture. So that's all I'm going to say about that until a future show where I go into the actual sounds of space. But for now, I just want to give the audience something to think about, that, you know what, music is all around us, not only on this planet, but perhaps elsewhere. Absolutely. And that some of your favorite stars, although they did not go around talking about it, especially back then, maybe now, you know, most people, the surveys say that most people in America and in the world, fully 2/3 by now, believe that there is alien life out there, that we are not the only ones here. So it's not just one or two people out there walking around the street that has this belief. It's kind of an overall belief pattern currently.
Yeah.
And I know here's another very, very famous star, David Bowie, no longer on planet Earth, who made it very public that, in fact, he made a whole movie on it, that some of his musical inspiration, in fact, came from communications with beings from other planets.
Yeah.
And there you go. Now, one can choose to believe it or not. I have no way of confirming that, but I'm not sure why they would go around saying that, because at the time they were saying that, the only thing they got back was ridicule. Why would you subject yourself to ridicule if some of what you were saying was not accurate, or you felt that it was very important to communicate the fact that, hey, maybe we're not alone in this universe, and to be a little bit extra careful what we are doing here on planet Earth, because our actions do not just entirely affect the Earth alone, but it reverberates in space and affects all the other planets. So when you think, oh, I'm just one person, what I do doesn't matter. Yes, I'm going to tell you that it very definitely matters, because every act by every person on the planet adds to the whole picture and the whole vortex and the movement and the future path of the entire universe. So every act that you do, especially acts of kindness, are registered on the larger universe. And those are very, very important. So that is my commentary on sort of the idea of music as coming both from the terrestrial Earth, and I think also from the extraterrestrial rest of the universe. And to that point, I'm going to say that this is not just idle speculation that I've been talking about as far as music coming from elsewhere in the universe. The United States Space Agency, which obviously is a very respected, et cetera, agency, who doesn't waste their time on idle speculation and who have the task of researching space. Well, they decided to also look into the idea of sounds in space, and could those sounds actually be translated into rhythms that the humans can actually understand. So they started a project called the Data Sonification Project, which was meant to, again, listen to the sounds of space decode those sounds, and then translate those sounds into musical notes.
Hmm.
Imagine that, Rebecca, right?
Wow. Yeah.
They sent out all of these probes in space, they recorded all the sounds, and then they decided, okay, let us see what the sound of the Milky Way is. Of course, the Milky Way is the center of our galaxy, very, very important to us here on Earth, because it's sort of like our center, so to speak. So, again, they recorded the sounds of the Milky Way.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Center of our galaxy. And they decoded those into actual rhythms that the humans can actually understand. And Rebecca, I am going to leave the audience today with the track that the space agency put together of the music directly from the Milky Way. As I said at the beginning, I was going to leave you with music that came from a very, very, very far out place. So here it is, music from the center of our galaxy, the music of the Milky Way. See you next week, guys.